Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, July 21st, 2025 Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board meeting. We are all here. We have a quorum, so we'll proceed. The posted meeting agenda, I believe, stands. I don't know of any additional comments or additions tonight. We have received from Jim his meeting notes. Do you have any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion to accept the meeting notes? Motion second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We have in draft form the July 7th minutes. Are there any corrections, additions? May I have a motion if there are none?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. I know of no correspondence or announcements. And so we have a couple minutes to wait until our first public hearing this evening.
Speak a little louder.
I'll do my best. We have a few more minutes to wait until 6:05, which is when the scheduled time is for our first public hearing of this evening. I would move ahead, but I don't think we have enough time to cover anything on the discussion. Yeah. Can we cover it before? Should have
You could go over the ground rules for the public hearing.
Okay, that's a good idea. So I see many of you here tonight, and I am guessing that many of you are here to make comment about the public hearing that's scheduled for this evening for workforce housing, Rhinebeck Road, site plan and wetlands permit for affordable housing units. Let me explain to you how we're planning to proceed this evening. And that is, we will hear first from the applicant's representatives. They will update us on any new additions that they've submitted to us in regards to the proposal. We also have with us this evening Christian Hadji, who is joining us, and he will be serving as the engineering consultant to the planning board as we do this review. The reason for that is that normally our engineering consultants are through CPL, and in this case, CPL is representing the applicant. So Mr. Padgett, who has previously been working with the town board, is familiar with the application, and is now moving over to provide any answers for us in terms of the technical aspects of the application. Following discussion with Mr. Padgett, we will then open it up for public comment. And anyone wishing to speak either for or against the application will be invited to the microphone. We'll ask you to give your name, your address, make your comments. Because there are so many of you, we'll ask you to try and limit your comments to 3 minutes. We'll be a little lenient with that, but there's a lot of people that may be wishing to speak, so we'll try and impose that time limit. And if the comment that you were going to make has already been made, we'll ask you to step aside and let new comments be made. Everybody in the room will have a chance to make their comments by the time we get through it. But in an effort to be efficient and effective, that's the way we're going to conduct the public hearing this evening. So I think we've managed to get to 6:05. So the first public hearing this evening is that of Michael DePola, 38 Ellerslie Road, site plan review for a pergola, patio, and stone wall. Good evening, Michael.
I'm Michael DePaul. Thank you to all the people from the public who showed up. On my patio.
I'm sure they're all in favor.
Absolutely. I think Robert should be here in a minute, but I can certainly start off answering any questions you guys might have about what you've received.
Does anyone need a refresher on this proposal? All right, is there anyone here from the public that thinks they might be commenting on this? Mr. DePola's comedy act aside. Because if you are, or if you want information, I will ask him to provide more information, but if not, I think the planning board is pretty familiar with it, and we can go ahead. Any new information you'd like to add?
No, there shouldn't be. I think you've got everything you need. And I think Robert did answer any of the hanging questions that you had. I hope you received that.
You do have, I believe you received comments from Rhinebeck. Is that correct? You had a site plan visit?
Yes.
Okay. The only thing I saw in there was a suggestion that they'd like to see some more trees. I'm just sharing that information. All right. That says a lot. Planning board members, any questions, comments?
When you were last before the board, there was some discussion about the ivy that was going to grow up the lock wall. And I think there was some uncertainty as to what you were going to cultivate there. And I've subsequently come across a DEC list of, first of all, there's some prohibited vines that they would rather not because they get away. And I think with the quality of your property and the surroundings, something you would want to be very conscious of. And so maybe engaging with Cornell Cooperative Extension and having a look at the excluded vines list. I think that might help guide your decisions.
We won't plant anything
It's just your property. And I think we want to maintain it to the highest level. I've also looked through some of the, they have some old postcards actually at the Consortium for Rhinebeck History of the Ellerslie property. It was Governor Mertens. And yeah, this guy right here. And it was a very florid and rich environment, and I would hope that that is the same, or at least a similar tone that you're aiming for.
Well, I don't plan on building the largest town barn in New York State.
Okay, yeah.
It's not a giant conservatory, but we're going
Sure.
to keep it simple.
Right, well, those things at advantage, certainly, but anything that there might be some vestibule remains, and I would take some appreciation for that.
The only thing that's left from the original state, in any state that can be appreciated, is parts of the old water tower. And that's still there, and we're trying to figure out exactly how to use that and maintain its integrity. But that's about it. So I think I have to do some church, and then school.
Anyone else?
Can't hear Mike.
Yeah, I was wondering if that mic needs to be turned up because there's a lot of people here doing.
You just gotta toss into a certain lane.
Talk nice to me.
Oh. Jim, do you have any
Sorry.
comments?
No, nothing new.
Anyone else? Then I think at this point we can move ahead with this application. Are we ready to close the public hearing?
Did you open the public hearing?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'll open the public hearing and I'll ask the public again, is there anyone here wishing to comment on this application? If not, then may I hear a motion to close the public hearing? A motion and second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Jim, I believe you have an approval resolution.
Sure.
Hi, you want to catch up?
I thought we were last on the list.
Well, you're early then.
I think it's good. We always communicate with supporter applications. We don't want to
So for the application by Michael DeCola for site plan review under Town Code Chapter 125 for construction of pergola patio with several permanent connected elements, stone wall, and changes to the existing driveway and fencing at 389 Ellerslie Road within the RL5 zoning district. Reaffirm the action is type 2 under seeker for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required. Based upon review of the submitted information, finding the proposed work is consistent with the objectives and regulations of Chapter 125. With respect to the application for site plan approval, asking the board to find the proposed work. I'll take care of that. Date has to be fixed, but finds the proposed work Is accepted as proposed by Murray Engineering dated May 20th, 2025, authorizing the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above cited site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the 3 items listed below. Authorize the planning board secretary to provide the approval resolution to the applicant along with details on next steps required to finalize the planning board process. And reminds everyone that all plan sketches and other materials submitted to the town of Rhinebeck Building Department for any required permits, including certificate of occupancy or certificate of completion, must match the materials approved by the planning board. Minor edits here.
Okay, your motion?
So moved.
Second. Poll the board. Craig?
Aye.
Edna? Aye. Tom?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Sharon? Aye. Elise?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Good luck.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. The next public hearing for this evening is then Statsburg Holdings LLC 3652 Route 9G, site plan and special use permit for a flooring showroom. Good evening.
Me, I'm Angel, representing the applicant in this situation. Since I was here last, we continue to work with the health department in terms of getting approval for the septic. We also continue working with the DOT. The ZBA adjourned their meeting until August to consider our application for waivers due to, I was informed that they needed a seeker review by this board first. Other than that, there's nothing more to report.
Okay, Jim?
Yeah, so we are here tonight specifically to talk about the seeker approval, but since you are here, just 2 quick comments. One is that plans we just got signed by Bill Chase, or official, so I know we've got that under control. And then we did talk about showing in that trail quarter area to be outlined on this.
It's been drafted, it's just should not have been submitted.
Okay. So I just wanted to mention those, but the purpose of tonight is to go over the draft seeker approval resolution for the ZBA to move forward. Since the planning board opened this application, they've asked us if we can do the seeker resolution. I think based on the comments, that's a fair request, so that's what we're here to do tonight. Remember, this is the property, and this is the proposal. So this is an action that requires us to go through the resolution. We deemed it unlisted, so the first thing that we would do would be to go through the seeker part 2 form. To remember the number of these. This is just a short form. So I'll ask the question, just ask the board to say no or small impact, and large impact may occur. We'll go through this, see where we land, and then get to the seeker approval resolution itself. First question, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations?
No.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of land?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
Will the proposed action have an impact on the CEA? The answer to that is no, because we do not have any Rhinebeck. I know we're working on it, but we don't have any now. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walking?
No.
Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy or fail to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Will the action impact existing public-private water supplies or public or private wastewater treatment facilities?
No.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No.
Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? And will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources and human health? So with that, we would deem that the proposed action has no or small impact, and I will read the draft seeker approval resolution. This proposed action is seeking approval to construct a 3,200 square foot flooring showroom and an associated 2,400 square foot storage building as a business service not listed elsewhere. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board, in its role as duly established lead agency under seeker, and upon review of the completion of the short EAF and associated information, hereby issues a negative declaration under seeker deeming an environmental impact statement is not required and stating such will not be prepared in its consideration of site plan and special use permit approval for the property at 3652 Route 9G, within the CRB Crossroads Business Zoning District. In taking this action, the planning board approves the showroom and associated storage to to move forward, and proposed actions are hereby approved for implementation. We will annex the short EAF parts 1 and 2 to this document.
Okay,
So we take action.
all right, may I have a motion to approve the draft seeker resolution?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Should I pull the board on that, John?
Yes, please.
All right, may I pull the board then, Craig?
Aye.
Edna? Aye. Tom? John?
Aye.
Sharon? Louise? And I vote aye. John, this is, now goes back to the ZBA, correct?
Yes, the ZBA, I'll just expand a little bit on what Tom explained at the ZBA. The ZBA's pretty much concluded its review. A straw poll was taken, and the board intends to grant the variances that have been requested. A resolution to that effect has already been prepared. So the ZBA just tabled the matter until the final vote, pending the planning board's conclusion of the seeker review.
And your next ZBA meeting is
August 20th.
August 20th.
August 20th, so we still need to go to, so we go to the first meeting in September?
No, we're on the 18th.
Oh,
August 18th.
no, I'm trying to figure what's the soonest. It goes to the ZBA when?
On the 20th.
Oh, so I see what you're saying.
But they also need Board of Health, so right, Department of Health.
Our hope is to have both those permits in August. We believe we're very close to getting both.
Yeah, well,
We
Yeah,
need to
there's
do
no-
September 2nd if you will.
yeah,
That's fine.
okay.
Thank you
Well,
so
then,
much.
I would entertain a motion to continue this, we're still in public hearing. Do we want to close the public hearing, could we not, John?
Yes.
Why don't we move to close the public
Can I
hearing?
just make a comment?
Yeah.
Since there are so many people here, and we did seem to really gone through the short EAF, these were all issues that we've been discussing, usually when nobody is here from the public. And a lot of these factors, like the presence on the scenic road and the tent, even though there may be critical environmental areas under consideration, this wouldn't have an impact even on those. And I don't want people to go away with the impression that we just went through these things and they're not important things. So these are all things that were brought up in previous meetings and considered, and I stand by our assessment that there would be no adverse impacts.
The members of the public who may not, and as we went into this, understand this is a property that has been abandoned for a number of years opposite CJ's Pizza on the 9G section up there. And so it has been positively received by the planning board in terms of making that area of the community look better than it has in many, many years. So happy to move it along. And so I think now I would entertain that motion to close the public hearing.
So
Second. Motion is second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. And now I'll have a motion to continue this discussion at the September 2nd.
Which is a Tuesday. Just a reminder, it's
Tuesday, reminding everybody that that follows the holiday and that that particular day will switch to the following Tuesday.
Same time?
Same time.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. The next public hearing for this evening is that of workforce housing, Rhinebeck Road, site plan and wetlands permit, affordable housing needs. And maybe we can figure out a way to get Christian up here. Yes.
We can hear very little of what you're saying.
I'm doing my
Of
very best.
everybody, except Craig.
Somehow my chair for Christian. Have chair will travel. Good evening.
Good evening.
So, I will turn it over to you to give us a sort of big picture summary and talk to us about anything new that's submitted or any new information that should come before us before we start the discussion.
Just for the record, I'm Andy Gunner, the CPO on civil engineer for the project. Not much has changed in terms of the layout. Layout remains at 80 units with six buildings. The layout has remained essentially unchanged. We did tweak the separation between a couple of buildings just to equal it out, but other than that, the layout has remained unchanged. We did add some traffic calming measures to the access road as requested, including some speed humps and some islands, curb islands that will narrow the perceived travel way, which will help to slow traffic through the access road. We did a lot of work with utilities, sewer, water, drainage, and we submitted to the health department and DOT. We already have comments back from both. And I've just a copy that I'm going to share with you. We only have 3 comments from the health department, so that's really, we're very happy about that. And we have some more additional DOT comments that we need to address. We have a resubmission pending probably later this week.
Do you know how long it takes generally to hear back from them?
We heard back from them in, it was 2 or 3 weeks, so it was pretty quick turnaround. And then, we made some work, some additional progress on the stormwater pollution prevention plan, but, as Christian noted in his comments, there's still a little bit of work to be done. We'll get there. That's all I have.
All right, Jim, do you have anything you want to start with?
I have a number of comments. Do you want me to run through them now? Some clarifications, some comments.
Okay, and then I'd like to ask, then I believe you all received the information that Mr. Paggi submitted to us and was circulated to you. So I'll give him next the opportunity to go over that, and then we can pick up our own discussion.
Okay. So just a follow-up, I know you provided a response letter, so I appreciate that. These are kind of responses to your responses in a way.
Yeah.
We have discussed the last thing may be needed. I just want to know manual removal might be a more appropriate method in some cases instead of blasting. Just a question in terms of rock removal. Don't necessarily have an answer today. I know you looked at it, but just a thought based on it.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we'll know until we get out there.
We can't hear you. Maybe pump it up a little.
I'm not sure that we'll know the answer to whether rock hammering or blasting will be necessary until we get on site.
Get on site. Okay. Well, I'll talk to Christian about that. Figure out how we can manage that. I noticed that there was a detail for a generator pad and bike racks, and those had been added to the plans. But you do have a generator kind of located, I know some of these are minor, but you have a generator located, it's up here, I believe.
That's where the pump station is located. That's where the pump station is located.
Yeah, it just seems like it's kind of like the first thing you see when you come up the hill. I didn't know if it could be moved, but if the pump station is there, it just seems to be kind of an odd kind of initial thing you're going to see on the way in. I'm assuming it's going to be a decent sized generator.
It actually shouldn't be a very big generator.
Yeah,
We'll see what we
size.
can do. I don't have that sizing right now, but it shouldn't be very
But
big.
not on the industrial ones, you see on the side of a large building. It's just for the pump station.
It's just for the pump station.
Yeah, it just seemed like if it can be moved, to the back of the parking lot or something, so it's not the first thing you see when you go up the hill, that might be useful. If not, then certainly we can talk about some screening
Yep.
of that. You did provide a response to comments letter dated July 3rd. The notes responses to our June 16th planning board memo, but it didn't appear that it addressed a lot of our new comments that were in there. So the comments I have here are kind of just reiterating what I had there. It really doesn't change much from what you responded to and what I had in there previously. But item number 10 in the response memo, we were talking about retaining wall height over 4 feet in height that extends above the final grade. If there are any retaining walls that extend above final grade, that would require a special use permit to be provided because it would be considered a fence or a wall. If the top of the retaining wall is at grade at the higher side, then I don't think we would because it would be considered to be below grade. So we just need to know for those retaining walls if the top cap is going to be above the ground, and if so, we just have to make sure we have a special use permit application and take a deeper look at that.
Understood.
But again, I think if the grading is up to the wall, then that wall would be considered to be, below grade, I don't think that would be considered part of the fence or wall. We had a number of items, 15 to 17. You'll get a copy of my notes, obviously, that were in previously. Talked about sidewalk connections for future submission. Talked about generator pads in front of them. So just take a look at those, and again, you'll get my notes. Take a look and answer a couple of those. And then you noted there were a number of things that will be provided in the future submission based upon the response letter, including the signage plan and some of the other details, including the SWIP and easements and some detention basin details and possibly an upgraded lighting plan. So we will look forward to seeing those. Some new comments that I did have after taking a look at your updated submission here. I didn't catch earlier that this little part here is part of your stormwater detention practice, which I assume is kind of connected to this. And I was just wondering if there's any way, and I know this is all engineered out, but wondering if there's any way that can be moved back from the road. And there are a couple of larger 18-inch maples down here, and I have no idea what the condition is, but if there's any way that that could be tweaked and a couple of those large maples could be retained, I just think it would help the entrance in terms of visibility, if that can be done. And then that will maybe allow the tree line to continue to go closer to the edge of the road. But again, I know that all has to be engineered based on slopes and other things, so I'll leave that to you to take a look at and see if that's a possibility. And I have the tree numbers listed in here, the three that I thought might be able to be retained if we can do a little bit of shifting and maybe some innovative digging with that stormwater unit in instead of clearing. The height of the dumpster enclosure will be needed. Based on a rough measurement that I did, it looked like it was 8 feet. It just didn't have a number on it, so we'd like to see that because if it is over 8 feet, well, with it being 8 feet and not permitting the passage of use, that will be considered a fence or wall that would require special use permit. So again, just trying to make sure we're putting in the proper permit applications that are necessary. There is a bus stop structure provided in the details sheet, but I didn't see it on the plans, so I was wondering, did I miss it? It's right here. Okay. So it's in the center of the thanks. And then my last question was just that, we're pleased to see some charging stations being put in. I was just curious, I did go on to the Charge Smart EV website. It looked like they were level 2s. I was just curious if they are. A level 2 will charge any car, whereas the other ones only charge pure electric cars. So I was just curious if they're level 2 systems that are going in. I believe that's the case, but just want to confirm.
I'll have to continue.
Just want to make sure, if we're putting them in, we should be able to charge both plug-in hybrids and. That was it for me.
Christian? Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Christian Paggi with Paggi Engineering. As Chairperson Moore mentioned, we have been retained by the town board to step in and review this application as part of the local law and seeker process. So you'll see in the letter that we circulated, some of our original comments actually date back to September 2024. And that was as part of the seeker review process that the town board was going through with the applicant. So most, if not all of these comments, the applicant has been aware of for quite some time. They've been working through our comments, the town board's comments, and comments from your planning consultant, Jim, as part of that process for a number of years now. It's a little bit of a lengthy letter. I don't think I need to go through all of it unless you'd like me to, but I would like to step through at least the first few comments, the general comments. And they've already been touched on, some of them, and they have to do really with procedure and some of the larger items that I think the planning board should be cognizant of. So the first few comments are relative to what Andy's already mentioned, DOT permit requirements. They've obtained a conceptual review and a conceptual approval from the DOT already. That was a requirement of the seeker review that the town board went through. But as the project progresses, there could be tweaks that happen to the plan, either to the entrance or anything else that could potentially impact DOT. So they're going to be remaining in the loop, and they'll ultimately need to obtain a work permit for the work, which would be basically their final approval. So we've asked that Andy and his team keep us copied on those, us and the town on those correspondences. Same with the DOH. So it's good to hear that you've already received some comments back. I don't believe that we did receive them, but whenever you resubmit, if you can just include them in the next package. And DOH approval is required for the water and sewer improvements, all the sewer, water and sewer mains, the pump station, ultimately the connection to the village systems. That also dovetails into one of my other comments regarding the village water and sewer agreements that were required to serve this property. They did submit executed agreements with the village for both the water and sewer, including payments to make those connections, and the agreement stipulates that it basically be a tenancy agreement up until the point that the town decides to create a water and sewer district specifically for this project. You know, if and when that does happen, then the terms of the water and sewer sale will be based on the district requirements that are created for the town, if that does indeed happen. But that has been executed, so that comment is addressed. Regarding stormwater, again, they've made a lot of progress on their stormwater design. This project disturbs much more than 5 acres, which is the threshold for post-construction stormwater management practices that address both water quantity and water quality treatment. They have submitted their stormwater pollution prevention plan along with their design plans outlining the stormwater design. It's very far along. We have a number of technical comments, but it's really more of a matter of buttoning it up. And so at this point, they are pretty well progressed. But again, we do have a number of comments just to get it really buttoned up. Wetlands on site requires Army Corps. They've acknowledged that, and they'll be providing information as that comes through. Jim has mentioned the impacts relative to rock hammering, rock removal, and blasting. I'll note that as part of the seeker review, the applicant submitted a pretty comprehensive narrative. It was the construction impact mitigation plan that they put together to address many of the seeker items that are reviewed under that review process. I'm not sure if the planning board has seen that. I imagine that they have, but I'm not privy to the packages that the board has seen. If you have not seen that, then I think that's a very helpful document. It goes through a lot of the big ticket items that you're looking at with seeker. This is one of them. As Andy mentioned, they may not know if they're going to be doing rock hammering for removal or blasting. The town code does include process for obtaining a blasting permit, so they would need to go through that process. But the planning board does have the ability to, continue to request more information relative to potential impacts. Even though seeker has been concluded, there's been a significant amount of work done already to demonstrate that there won't be a significant environmental impact relative to all things, but blasting and rock removal was included. So requesting that information from the applicant, I think, is very appropriate. They are removing a significant amount of material from the site. 3,500 cubic yards is their current estimate. One of the concerns that we had was relative to potential impacts to town roads. If that was all going to be removed by trucks, it's a significant number of trucks leaving the site. So they have, the applicant has acknowledged that they intend to limit truck traffic during construction mainly to the state roads as opposed to town roads with some exceptions. So we're asking them to memorialize that with plan notes and I recommend that that be noted also in resolution. We could also and should bring the highway superintendent into the fold in that conversation relative to potential impacts to town roads for any traffic that does make its way onto the town roads. one way to manage that is to document the condition of existing roads that could potentially see heavy equipment traffic, and to establish some sort of a developer's agreement that, in essence, says that the developer agrees to repair any damage that's done to town roads as a result of the construction. So that's something that the board can consider also, in coordination and consultation with the town highway superintendent. Let's see. The rest of our comments were relative to the plan and the SWIP. Again, most of them were fairly technical, but if the board or if the applicant had any questions on our comments, I'm happy to review them, unless you want me to run through my 9 pages of them.
Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions.
You received a copy of them,
No
so
questions.
you have. John, anything you'd like to add at this point? Then I'll open it up to planning board members for questions, either to Andy or to Christian.
I just have a really quick question. Is there any potential to be able to use, I guess, the rock that you're going to be removing from the site on site?
Yeah, there is that potential. Again, we won't know until we get on site if it's good enough to be used, be processed and reused, but that is a potential.
Obviously, that would be favorable.
Other planning board members at this time? Sharon?
Go ahead.
The school bus route, how would that go? Will it turn around and come back out onto Rhinecliff Road, or will it go all the way through?
That'll be up to the school district. We just have, at this point, we just know that they will be able to come onto the property and pick up the kids from the bus shelter.
Will you be able to get that information from them? Do you know?
I can certainly ask.
Okay.
Sure.
Brett, will you?
Yeah. Kristen, you had said that the estimated amount of removal of soil material was 3,500. And I think it's hard to kind of get a sense of what that is. What is that kind of like? Your standard triaxle dump truck carries how many cubic yards?
About 11 or so, right? 11 yards?
A standard dump.
A standard dump truck, yeah.
Yeah. So that's roughly
300 trips?
300
So, yeah.
truck trips. Yeah. And I know, in just thinking about this, I appreciate the desire to have the construction traffic come off of Rhinecliff Road and off of Route 9. But just sitting there at that light, waiting to make a left turn, in front of the Beekman Arms, I just, I envision a lot of impact, and that, I think, I don't know if there's anything that can be done for that.
So we can certainly ask the applicant to address those concerns. That specific intersection, obviously, is Route 9. It's a state intersection. Those are the types of questions that the DOTs would likely be asking them also, potential impacts at that intersection, relative to not just the potential future build out of the site, but also the construction. So if the DOT didn't have concerns, that means that they have, their information is telling them that that intersection can handle the anticipated traffic. So, but again, that doesn't mean that we can't be asking them for a little bit more information, and both on the when the removal will take place and how. So it's a valid question.
I would note that the traffic impacts study did evaluate that intersection during the secret review process.
I would imagine that it would have been required to do that. The DOT wouldn't have issued their conceptual approval without that. So, but we can, and that would have all been part of that mitigation plan that you guys submitted. It would have been in the appendix for that too. So another reason to resurrect that document is, again, it has a lot of these items already addressed.
Right. Well, just one of the things that occurs to me is that it would be a lot easier to come in on 9G and head straight down the Rhine Cliff Road instead of trying to negotiate that turn. And I don't know if you can dictate those types of restrictions on construction traffic coming into the site. But, you know, you have a nice smooth roundabout turn off of 9G, it's wide open, and at that intersection, the two, you know, East and West Market Street don't align. And it's a pedestrian-heavy location, and it's gonna be uncomfortable.
It depends on where we're taking the material, when we're taking it off-site, but I can tell you that the truck drivers are gonna want to avoid that intersection as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I know that they get tractor trailers through somehow, but having it be a regular thing for many months is an issue. One of the things that I hit on in looking at your review, Christian, was the runoff retention, the 100% runoff retention, and they're not doing that because of bedrock. And I want to know how that works.
So they are fulfilling their retention, their water quantity, volume requirements. The item that they are getting relief from is a water quality aspect of the speedies permit. It's a runoff reduction volume. And then there's water quality volume, that the criteria that they need to meet. And then as part of that, there's what the DEC is defined as the runoff reduction volume, which again is a water quality volume parameter. And then the water quantity, you know, making sure that they're maintaining peak construction, maintaining pre-development peak runoff flow rates, so that they're not creating potential flooding issues downstream. So the DEC, relative to the runoff reduction volume, which you saw in the letter, the DEC likes to see you obtaining your water quality volume requirement with a certain amount of it to be green infrastructure. And there's a definition of what they consider green infrastructure. And different practices qualify, but basically it typically needs to include infiltration. They like to see that infiltrated. The goal is for 100% of your water quality volume to be achieved through a runoff reduction and green infrastructure practice. They allow some relief where sites don't allow for that. And sites that don't allow for that are either, there's a few different scenarios. If the site is too small, this is not one of those sites, it's not obviously a large site. But also if there are environmental constraints like proximities to wetlands, sewage disposal facilities. In this case, it's the presence of bedrock. To have a DEC compliant design infiltration practice, it needs to have a certain separation to the seasonal groundwater table and to bedrock. And on sites that have very shallow bedrock, infiltration can sometimes be impossible. So they've done soil testing. They're showing that there is no real opportunity to achieve 100% runoff reduction with green infrastructure, but they still are meeting all the other requirements relative to water quality and water quantity. It still complies with DEC. The only other opportunity that they could explore to try to increase the runoff reduction volume would be would involve disturbing more of the site to try to find more suitable soils, which I don't personally believe is appropriate. So.
Yeah. Okay. But is this impacted by the issue of additional rock removal on the site? The amount of digging and blasting, and what gets left behind is basically an impermeable surface. Now, if you have an exposed outcropping or one that's very shallow, then you don't have a lot of permeable soil to begin with. But I mean, where does that end? And is it a DEC standard? And is this only for construction, or is this the built state that we're looking at?
So the DEC standard relative to the rock is for an infiltration practice, you have to have, the DEC requires that you have a certain amount of suitable soils underneath that practice, between the bottom of that practice and the top of any bedrock or your groundwater table. That's what this is referring to. But the presence of rock outcrops and, you know, they're going to be removing soil and leaving exposed rock outcrops. I'm not sure if there's any situations where that would be the case. They'd be removing soil and be putting something else there, and it would likely be impervious. Those impervious surfaces have been taken into account in their stormwater calculations.
My only comments, I appreciate the question so far, related to the volume of trucks, originally 300 potential truck, like, what does that equate to on a daily basis? Like, I mean, I know these are general numbers, but like, is that 10 a day? Like, if we were to have a visual expectation of that?
Ken has a rough idea that it's probably 10 to 15, 15 to 20.
As I've stated, we also do our own construction. So my son is more well-versed in this than I am. But recently we had a project, and it was between 15 and 20 trucks a day.
Thank you.
Over how long? That just as a,
6 hours,
I mean, 10, 15 to 20 trucks a day over 6 hours.
over 6 hours.
Okay, for how long a period of time?
Here,
Until we get to the 300?
yeah, until we get to the 3.
My other question, sorry, thank you, related to the runoff reduction volume. Just not being a special on this, but like thinking about just how water runs, right? It makes sense that you're taking off the top layers, then there was not much permeability left, so now it has to run off the area. And we have a high level of grading that's happening in tree removal and plantings removal. It seems very important to take as much of the disrupted material to layer it back in the process to create some permeability, but also, I think, just we've talked a lot in the past about the tree removal and the landscape. Putting back, I would imagine, as many roots as possible to help create absorption should be an extremely important part of this process, because it's a high-sitting property. That runoff is going far. And you have a lot of people with a lot of density in a small place up high. I don't know how you test the long-term volume of where that water is going to go. So it just seems extremely important that whatever that plan is, that we get to maximum absorption when it comes to that runoff permeability.
Right, good. Just one more. So our office is down in Somers in Westchester. When we work down there, we're in the New York City DEP watershed. We're not in that.
No.
Right, we're outside the DEP watershed. The restrictions are robust. We just finished the first phase of a 2-phase project adjacent to Putnam Hospital Center. Very similar to this. It's 2 phases, 75 units in each workforce. And we're surrounded by a reservoir on the backside and a reservoir on the front side. And it was challenging. So before we even dug for a footing, we spent 3.5 to 4 months getting our stormwater practices in place for construction. But that led us to where we are now. I go in there twice a week, and I go up there, if we hit a bad storm, it's working. And the slopes there leading down to the reservoir, because we're on a hill on both sides. We actually pulled the reservoir in place. It's challenging, but our stormwater system and our practices, I understand the concern. You look at it and you say it's all going to run out, but it won't. And your concerns are noted, and we're going to look at that again. Okay?
I thank you, and we're excited to stay informed about it. Obviously, it's no secret that our storms are getting faster, more furious,
Yeah.
and the water volume in hours is concentrations that we're not used to. So I know there's a lot of community members that are worried about what happens to their water and the runoff. So obviously, it's important to us all, and we'll look forward to the continued build out of how that's going to be resolved.
Any question, any comments on that?
Just quickly, the way The task that these guys have is to demonstrate that post-construction stormwater runoff will not be more impactful than pre-construction. So to do that, they have to model the site as it stands today, and they have to look at the site, see how much of it is forested, how much of it is meadow, how much rock outcrops and impervious areas, and what are the soil types, what is the existing percolation of the soils, and then compare that and create a model for the post-construction to show, you know, what used to be forest is now impervious, the amount of building area, you know, any meadow or wooded area that's now going to be lawn as opposed to meadow. Everything is detailed to a pretty thorough extent, again, including the soil conditions. And that will dictate the amount of water quality volume that they need to treat, and that in turn dictates the amount of practices and the types of practices that they have to treat water quality. They're using bioretention areas throughout the site, and also that will also dictate the size of their stormwater, their drainage system that's going to handle the water quantity. That's the retention pond that you see down at the bottom, and also obviously the drainage network, the pipes and the catch basins and all of that. So that all gets pretty meticulously modeled and designed, and the end result is this stormwater pollution prevention plan tied together with these plans that we're reviewing to ensure that it's not only does it comply with the DEC standards, but also with current, you know, just engineering standards and hydrology design. So again, as the applicant just mentioned, it's a very valid concern, and the things that you brought up, you know, looking at the site where it stands today and what they're doing to it and how it's going to exist post-construction, those are exactly the things that we are looking at.
I'll just add that the calculations do account for the slope of the site, and all the disturbed areas will be vegetated. They'll receive topsoil and will be vegetated, which will also help with runoff.
Do we have all that in our file?
It's part of the vegetative plan is on the road side of
What he was saying about the calculation of what the...
Oh, yeah, it's all part of the SWIP.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's SWIP document. Yep.
Okay,
I have a question on the other side of the equation, and that is, how can the stormwater system accommodate irrigation? Because there is going to be a fair amount of planting, and new trees need steady irrigation for, you know, a couple of years. So are there opportunities to use some of this for irrigation?
There's no permanent irrigation system proposed, so any irrigation necessary for the vegetation will be manual, for lack of a better term, and there's no proposed water to be standing on the site. That was discussed as part of the secret process. Any opportunity to collect that water would have to be within the first 48 hours of the rain event to be able to collect that and use it for irrigation purposes. Grabbing buckets and pulling it out of the practices. That's really
Is that something that could be thought of?
There are cisterns and things, practices that the DEC manual looks at. It's for the scale of the project that we have here, it's likely not practical, but it's something that we could ask them to look at. If there is no irrigation proposed, I'm not sure if, I mean, the main reason to use your stormwater runoff as irrigation as a secondary use, it's to try to limit the amount of potable water that you're using for irrigation. So if they're not proposing irrigation, there's no intention to have irrigation, and they won't really be offsetting any potable water usage. But again, it's certainly something. It's a good point. It could be something that we have address, at least respond to.
Or at least address how the new plantings will be sustained.
Kenya, could you use your mic, please?
I think the last thing Edna was saying were address how the new plantings will be sustained. I just want to make sure everybody on this side of the table.
One very quick question. Who does the maintenance or maintains your properties?
That's a great question. So we do it in-house. We have 80 apartments here, 79 are rental, and one is two-bedroom non-rental apartments for an on-site superintendent. And in this case, because the number of buildings will also have a part-time porter. The superintendent oversees our maintenance there, along with the on-site property manager. Our superintendent also, besides maintenance, there are eyes and ears on the weekends and so forth. So we do it in-house. We'll have a contract for the snow plowing. We'll have a contract for landscaping, but our superintendents have to fill in the gaps sometimes.
So they would deal with like clogged drains.
We,
So both landscape and physical.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking, right, so all this is gonna drain into a pipe and then go to storm. We're talking storm.
yeah,
Right, so who's like making sure that they're not clogged and running across the road?
well, if that does occur, we're going to see that and we're going to deal with it. We're going to correct it right away.
But
If it's,
who?
us,
Wait,
the Carneys, either the Carneys as the owner, or the Carneys as the management company, or the Carneys as the construction company.
okay.
So we have all three steps. We wear three hats. And development is supposed to be fun. Construction is hard, but management is tough. So that's a great question because management and maintenance are the key. And we will put in a system in place with the superintendent and our subcontractors. And if it doesn't work, we shake it up. Right now we have, I think, 28 various projects throughout New York State. And at each site, we have a different superintendent. Last Friday, I surprised them, I hit 6, all right? 5 of the 6 were happy when I left, 1 wasn't. But we'll do that, and we let them know that you're our eyes and ears. And if we see something that, on an unannounced visit, I assume that that is there every day. So, you know, with the amount of units we have, it's harder and harder to do what got me here, right? I started with 2 family, to 4 family, to 8 family, and monitoring all the maintenance. But that spirit, that concept is still out there in our office. We have a person who has been with us for 15 years. She runs our management company. She handles everything. We have.
You answered my question.
Okay.
Like your dialogue is
I will also add that the stormwater pollution prevention plan includes requirements for regular inspection and maintenance of all stormwater management practices. So,
thank you.
I would also ask the planning board members to remember that I understand that Mr. Carney's outlined his plans, but once this project's been approved and put up, it is possible for his family to sell the project to another property owner. And so when the time comes for your weighing site plan approval, you should be giving some thought to site plan approval conditions that would assure some of the maintenance issues that you have concerns about. We can talk about that at that time.
Just gonna, for landscaping, there is a requirement to go that all vegetation be maintained for 3 years, and the town zoning office has the ability to go and inspect those and make sure that they get replaced if they don't make it, so.
I can't hear you.
There's a 3-year requirement in the zoning code for vegetation that's planted to be maintained and make sure that it stays alive. And if it dies, then there's a requirement that has to be replaced.
Greg, Tom, did you have any questions at this time? Craig, anything
Um,
else?
yeah.
And then has some additional concerns.
Sure. Well, Ed, do you want to?
No, mine relate to landscaping.
Well, I was
This
gonna,
issue.
I was gonna go on to the tree line, and I don't know if you wanted to speak to that or not. But I noticed from the last time we've met, these plans have not been revised or amended since we were.
The layout has not changed. The grading has been tweaked a little bit in a couple of places.
So there hasn't been any further exploration of additional tree retention, or moving the tree line?
At this point, there's a couple of places where the tree line may be reduced a little bit, based on where the grade is. It may go one way or the other in a couple of different places. But overall, the total area disturbance, or the total amount of tree trimming will remain the same.
Because the town code does require that you retain mature trees to the maximum extent possible. And I don't think that that was one of the things that the town board excluded when they changed the zoning specific to the site. So I would take that as something that is really important to the town, that we ensure that we're preserving trees to the maximum extent possible. Now, this stormwater retention, is that going to be a basin that's filled with riprap or big rocks, or is there some other?
The intention was that it would be grass.
It's going to be a grass area. Okay. Will it get mowed?
Yes.
Or is it going to be
Well,
cattails?
Yeah, I mean, it could be mowed. It would be dry between storms, so it could be mowed.
And is it, how deep is it?
About 6 feet, 6 to 7 feet.
What's there right now?
Trees?
But is there when we were in the site, I got the sense that there was a great big hill there, and you said that that was going to be the stormwater practice.
Well, that's one of the lowest points in the property, so that's why it's there. That's what the Congress.
So that's currently a low elevation.
Yes.
So I was wrong when seeing it.
I'm just reading the existing contours, that is a low area, lower area in the site. It's not a slope section.
Okay. All right. My mistake.
Okay. Anyone else?
So do you have time for some landscaping recommendations now, or do you want to move on?
Yeah, well, let's hear,
Well,
Louise has a quick question, and we'll get back to you.
My question is, we're talking about lawn and maintenance. The existing properties that you guys maintain, do you currently spray for weed control?
We have a note on the plans already that there won't be any pesticide
There
or
won't be any.
herbicide use.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the last time you were here, I had the impression that additional ideas for landscaping might be welcome, in particular for the areas along the roadway on the way to Rhinecliff Road and in the opposite direction. Do we have a site plan map?
It's just hung up, I'm getting there.
Oh,
It's hung up.
okay.
We don't have sheets, it's kind of great.
So we were talking about the need for frequent mowing on a slope around trees, that could be difficult to do, and that mowed lawns typically require regular fertilizer, et cetera. In addition, when I look at this, and then I look at the cleared area, something doesn't match. I see two lines of trees to the west of the driveway near Rhinecliff Road. And yet, if you go back to the other site plan that shows the cleared area, okay. So the cleared area is very close to the driveway, near Rhinecliff Road. And yet I'm seeing 2 lines of trees in the landscape plan in that space. So does that mean that some of the space is already empty of trees?
No, that means that the landscape plan needs to be tweaked.
Oh, okay.
You know, we were given a certain spacing of trees based on the secret determination. We were, based on the size of the trees, we couldn't put them as close together as was requested, so we had to do 2 rows in order to accommodate that spacing.
All right. I have a suggestion that I would like you to at least think about, and that is to not plant rows of trees looking at the space now between where the buildings begin and Rhinecliff Road, but rather at the forest edge, plant things that will help keep invasives from coming in, which they will, along the forest edge. Things that are natural to our area like dogwood, cranberry viburnum, and so forth. Keep the trees along the sidewalk for shade, but in the rest of the area, make it a meadow, so that it would be planted with tall native grasses that self-seed and are mowed maybe 2 times a year, 2 or 3 times a year. If that were to be done, you could dramatically reduce the mowing. We'd be increasing the diversity of habitat for a wider variety of wildlife, because you'd have forest edge plantings and you'd have tall grasses. You would have support for pollinators all the way through the season, spring and summer, and it could be a beautiful landscape. The sidewalk, I think I mentioned this before. I know it might be difficult, but again, I would ask you to consider it, and that is to have something called a tree lawn. That's from Google, the divider between a sidewalk and a road that's planted with trees, to have that divider between the road and the sidewalk. For a couple of reasons. If trees are planted east of the sidewalk, they will provide maximum shade given the position of the road relative to the sun, and it also increases safety as people walk down the sidewalk.
We may have an issue with that because the buildings, based on the guidance and the various iterations of the layout, the buildings have been pushed as close to the road as possible to create we can certainly look at the suggestion there, yes.
Excuse me, just so I'm clear, the meadow area?
The meadow area would be second.
All right.
Yeah, the meadow area would be here and here. This would be tall grasses. And the forest edge here, which would be visible pretty much from the driveway and in some places from the road, would be planted with native forest edge plantings, shrubs and trees.
I'll let Andy finish, but if as Andy started to say, I rudely interrupted, if we have an issue up where the buildings are, I think this Rhinecliff on the access road up, right, before we get to the buildings.
Well, I think these are, I think Edna has some more things, but I don't want you to think that we have to have an immediate answer here this evening to the points that are being raised, and we don't want to put you on the spot, and we welcome the time to think about it.
So that is the suggestion for both this area about the area at the top of the hill where the buildings are. And there, as you mentioned, the buildings have been moved close to the road. And there were even comments in some memos about how that was done to create a kind of a Main Street appearance of this area.
That's right.
And I was confused about that because, well, first of all, it's not a main street, it's a residential street. And even on Rhinebeck's Main Street, there are many trees. They're all lit up at Christmas time. And landscape dividers between sidewalks and trees are currently seen throughout the village and on the neighborhood design standard illustrations in the zoning law. So here is my question. Is it possible to, instead of having this line of cars on this side of the street, to have what we're calling this tree line, or this divider, between the sidewalk and the road, which would be planted with trees, so that would bring some foliage, some greenery up here, some relief from asphalt and concrete and parked cars. And I think there are like 31 cars here. And I know that you have put them there to try to reduce the size of parking lots. But larger parking lots are not necessarily negative, particularly if they're screened a bit. And I think if we change the entire ambiance up here to have trees and a little lawn on a divider all along the stretch.
I think that would be a challenge for us to recover the parking spaces that would be lost.
I was looking at this, which I understand you need, but it goes through a parking lot here, so why couldn't some parking be built, you know, on at least some parts of it, along some parts of it. Anyway, I think it would be a dramatic improvement to the feeling of this residential development.
It's, like I said, we've been through many iterations of this layout. And it would be we would end up with additional soil disturbance. I don't think that we would get the number of parking spaces back that are currently provided here. If we could do that.
And of course, there is more road length here where there are, you know, no more buildings.
Yeah, and in that section there, the slope of the road gets steep, it's 10%. In that location, you can't put parking on slope sets there.
So this is a question for you and for Edna. Could your suggestion not be achieved by shifting the buildings back a bit, just to create a little bit more green space to plant a row of trees? I know everything is very tight. The intention was to try to limit the disturbance as much as possible. That may not be possible without significant revision, but that's...
We also have zoning setbacks that were adopted as part of the...
Right.
We have to comply with, so we have to make sure that if we were to shift the buildings, that it would
Still comply.
There is a not wide enough for a planting strip, but there is a small grass strip between the sidewalk and that strip.
Would it be easier easier to move the road a couple feet than the buildings?
I believe Edna has prepared these questions in great detail, and I think they warrant moving forward. As Christian said, you know, for some, just, you certainly can come back with responses. And I would rather have you take your time and come back with a response that is thoughtful than to try and answer this on the fly tonight. That's my own personal opinion. There are good thoughts and good suggestions, and Christian has some thoughts as well. So I know, you know, Edna may have some others, but I know she's taken the time to put them in writing, and so they'll be available for review. We're not closing the public hearing or making a decision this evening, so there'll be time to get some of these answers back and the rationale for why we can go ahead with these suggestions or we're not able to, if that works for you. And then more.
I'd like to talk about the Woodland Trail, if we could take a look at that. We have a pretty big wooded parcel with a lot of trails, and we've been there for over 2 decades, and we have maintained a lot of trails and learned a lot of sad lessons about what it takes to maintain trails. They require enormous maintenance. After every storm, there will be fallen trees, branches, and twigs. There will be heavy fallen leaf cover in fall. According to the topography, there's a lot of slope there. Rainwater and slopes of road surfaces, cuts through stone dust, carries organic material to the trail surface. And it looked like, given the topography, unless the trail was actually cut into the bank, the trail itself would be on a slant. And so if you have to cut into the bank, then you have a raw earth wall on one side of some height, and on the other side, you have a continuation of a slope down which stone dust and, you know, so forth can fall with erosion. So these are my recommendations, just based on what we've learned. And that would be to construct a wide, winding trail through the woods as level and safe as the terrain allows. Consider ending it further east where the rise from Rhinecliff Road is less steep. Where it is now, it's very steep. You'd almost need steps, you know, to get down to the road. Plant with shade grass and allow natural foliage to grow. Mow it several times a season, and reserve the stone dust for the sidewalk along Rhinecliff Road frontage. So the grass and the other emerging plants will stabilize the trail and reduce erosion, and you can actually cut it with a brush hog. You can cut grass and small twigs for regular maintenance. Why was it sent so straight down rather than, you know, winding around? And the area east of the trail, as I remember from walking, is more level, particularly as you approach Rhinecliff Road.
It was designed to follow the contour of the land. As you can see, it's running roughly parallel to the 200 contour. So that's how we arrived at that along.
Yeah, but the lines on the total map are very close together there. Anyway, you might take a look and think about it. It would be sad to put a lot of stone dust in there and have it wash down the hill. Thank you, Melody.
Okay. Do you want to provide those comments that you have in writing to Amy and to Christian? And if you get them to Gretchen, she can circulate them to the planning board as well. And then we'll all have the comments. Before I open it to the public, is there anything else from the planning board?
Yeah, I think it's noteworthy that there's still no connection to the network of village sidewalks.
And the way that the project has been aligned, it's intended for future connections, as you can see with the access roads to building 1. And then we have plans to extend the Stone Dust Trail through the developer's property on the village side to those.
Okay, but those are not part of this plan. So I don't think it's really worthwhile to say that you have plans, because if you had plans, they'd be on the plans. So I can only assume that this is as far as this is going to go. I mean, I don't know what needs to happen to make that essential connection. It's part of what really makes this workforce housing project work the way the town wants it to work. And it's kind of disembodied. And I think it's unfortunate.
I think we have a difference of opinion on this. As I stated at the last meeting, this plan has evolved. This plan was not the original plan or even the second plan. We sat down with members of a working committee from the village as they worked on their comprehensive plan to come up with a way to have this project be consistent with what the village's goals were, to be consistent with connectivity through the property next door. We own the property next door. If we did not own the property next door, I would see a real concern here. We own the property, free and clear. The Carney family owns it. We're not going to sell it. I can put that in writing. This plan has been designed in a way and extended the road to the property line of our property that we own in the village, which will connect down to the village. And that was the design, that was the reason for this entire redesign that we did and added another 18 months to the process. If we didn't own that property there, if we had not taken into account a future connection from this with that road that goes right to the property line, I understand. I believe the connectivity is there, the plan is there, the plan is going to happen. As soon as the village updates their zoning, we will have an application in within 60 days. And the plan will show the connectivity from there to there. If we didn't own the property, I would see a concern. I just don't see it.
All right. The point has been made and your response is noted. At this point, unless there's something else, I would like to open it to the public. I will ask you one by one to come to the microphone, as I indicated earlier. Give your name, address, limit your comments to 3 minutes, and if your comments have already been made, cede to the person behind you in line. So thank you. Who is ever ready, you may step up.
Hi, everyone. Thanks to the board and the Carney folks and to all my neighbors. I'm Chuck Jacob. I live at 15 Wall Street. I live, actually keep this one up. I live basically right here. So I have 2 questions, both relating to the access to Rhinecliff Road. First is that it's not clear to me where the stone path is coming out, whether you own the property east of the Baker House, or are you referring to something west of the Baker House? Because there's no room to put a sidewalk right now. If it comes out west of the Baker House, there's a very narrow shoulder. I walk it, I jog it, I bike it, I live there, my mailbox is there. Plus you have utility poles. So you have about 2 feet to avoid getting hit by a car in that particular stretch. Look, let me not block the view. So I guess that's my question, is whether is Baker House up there, or are you actually going east of Baker House? Because there's no place to put a sidewalk right now. I can just tell you that. And the other concerns down here, this is not a straight line. I know, it's a representational map and not necessarily perfectly geographically accurate, but it's a curvy curve, and it's hill. And it's a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit, which means people are doing 50. I hate to say it, but that's what they do. They're doing 50 around, this is a, try not to block it. This here is a sharp curve, it's not a straight line. So if a school bus were turning left, it's not gonna look anything like on this drawing. You're gonna have folks doing 45, 50, coming down a hill and around the bend. Been there, right? Oh, yes, you know what I'm talking about. So what's going to happen traffic-wise? Is there just going to be a stop sign here for the school bus? Are there going to be decreases in the speed limit? Because I can tell you, just to get across the road, Rhinebeck Road, right here, you have to listen. By the time you see a vehicle, it is too late. I cannot get to my mailbox. If I can see a vehicle, I can't cross. That's how tight and hilly the curve is. So, 2 questions, but they both concern Rhinebeck Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. And let me just also say, sort of a point about public comment. Jim is taking notes here. I'm sure that the applicant is taking notes, and these questions will be answered in due time, not necessarily tonight.
I have very simple questions. I don't understand the map. I've never
Can we
seen
enter your name and address?
Kathy Healy. I live at Wells Manor, 3 Wells Manor Lane, right on Pasture Drive. And there have been the rumor mill. All the forest behind us is going to be cut down and all the rock blasted out. And we're talking about 100 yards from my back window. I don't know on this map where Wells Manor is. And that's also where the water treatment plant is.
This is one of your buildings right there. This is the property line, and I think this is the town-village line. So this is actually...
And those are very narrow roads. Astor Drive, and it's right where the water treatment plant is at the end. At the bottom of the hill where Wells Manor is. And there's Wells Manor.
This is Astor, and then this is Wells Manor Lane.
Both very small roads.
Yeah, and then Wells Manor is up in here, if I'm correct.
Well, that's Wells Manor Lane, and there's not much to it. I mean, right at the top of the hill, that's the buildings. So, what is that? This right here.
That's across the road. That's the property.
That's the property.
This is the property
For
line,
the new,
and then this is the center line of the road that they're going to be constructing. And then
which
Wells,
comes down to the end of our
it
road.
tees off into Wells Manor and then out to Astor.
Okay, they're both very small, narrow roads. Okay, and all those trucks you were talking about, I don't know that they do anything there without destroying the roads down there. Okay.
Thank you for your comments. Next. We have 2, I think you're lining up over there. Looks like the line forms on the left.
John, more good points. Here, if you need.
Hi, I'm John Clark. I live at Beach Street in the Village. I'm on the Village Planning Board and also was on the Comprehensive Plan Committee. The Village Board wrote a letter to you and the Town Board back in January with site plan suggestions. I just wanted to remind everybody that it's there. Those things, many of them have not been addressed yet. I will note that this plan is not on the website that I could find. The last plan that's on the website is from August of '24. So I'd like to see it updated if you're going to continue reviewing something different. It's a refinement of what was there before, so the concept's still there. Just to go over some of the major points, I absolutely agree with what you're talking about in terms of a tree lawn. That's one of the points we made. Right from the beginning, this is in the Gateway District, or was before it was rezoned, and where it's appropriate for compact village-like development, that's what the town zoning says. So the village planning board would like to see this look more and more like the village. That's the whole idea of this whole sector out here. The village is going to change its zoning based on the comprehensive plan to make those properties that are on the village side of the line more agreeable to this sort of development, mixed use, not mixed use, mixed income, variety of housing types, affordable housing, emphasis, that sort of thing. I urge everybody to look at pages 15, 42, and 43 of the comprehensive plan, which shows conceptual drawings of what this could look like as it's attached to the village. And that way you could see how use of that property to the west could be incorporated into a sidewalk system that would lead directly to the village and would make the sort of roundabout way they're talking about now on this property not as necessary. So I'll look at that as sort of a temporary thing until you can get real sidewalk connections. We think that Wells Manor should be included on the site plan to show the neighborhood context, and a direct street connection should be provided as an alternative for site plan approval, so that subject to future negotiations with the owner of Wells Manor. So Wells Manor is not a dead end to the village, that it's incorporated, connecting to this site and the sites to the other side of the village. We think the playground should be shifted towards the southeast corner of the park to save some of the cluster of existing trees in that area. There's a cluster of mature trees right where that playground is located. It could be moved to an area where it doesn't conflict with existing trees as much. We think the landscaping plan should include street trees every 30 feet or so throughout the center of the site between the sidewalk and the curb. You already have a separation between the sidewalk and the curb. You only need 5 feet. You can certainly squeeze 5 feet out of this on a site this big to make sure that you have that sort of village-like feel. We think there should be on-street parking, just like in the village. There should be street trees between the sidewalk and curb, and the sidewalks can be at least 4 feet. I'm not hitting all the points, just the ones that still have relevance. In terms of the architecture, it would be preferable for each of the buildings to have somewhat different architectural features, rather than have all 6 have the same roof line, siding, and color scheme, so that it looks more like a village rather than a development, like a separate development. And it can be done without changing the building's footprint. It could just be done with different colors, different siding types. We recommend how that could work on the plan. Overall, the village is in the process of redoing its zoning right now. We anticipate that the properties to the east will be rezoned to make it compatible with this use, and it will provide the owners the opportunity to make the direct connections between that stub road and the village center on the other side of the Baker House. So we think that this plan is a good one. We support it. It's the village board, planning board, and we'd like it to see it move forward as fast as possible. Thanks.
So gentlemen, when you say we, you're speaking, you're wearing both hats, you're speaking for the comprehensive plan committee and the village?
No, not, the comprehensive plan committee has been dissolved.
Okay.
There's going to be a comprehensive plan implementation committee set up, but it's not active yet.
Okay, so the
I'm
we is
speaking for the
planning
village
board.
planning board
Okay.
in support of this letter that was sent back in January.
Thank you.
John, do you have the date of that letter?
January 21st, 2025.
Thank you.
Steve?
Hello, I'm Steve Rosenberg. I live on Platte Avenue in the village. I, for many years, was the director of the Scenic Hudson Land Trust and senior vice president at Scenic Hudson. I I'm passionate about conserving land. I'm passionate about the environment. And I want to talk, and I completely support this project. And I want to express my appreciation to the planning board for your role. And over the years, I've seen planning boards make such meaningful and important improvements to projects, and I'm certain that that will happen here as you continue your review of the site plan. But I'd also like to sort of put nobody has talked about like what the project is in this context and why it's important for our community. And in that context, to John's very last comment, I hope that we can get this process done as expeditiously as possible while fulfilling your obligations for the review of the site plan. Locust Hill offers a tremendous opportunity that this community can't afford to lose. It's been in the making for many, many years. I also was on the Village Comprehensive Plan Committee. I was on the Town Comprehensive Plan Committee over 20 years ago. I co-founded the town's Open Space and Affordable Housing Committee in 2006 when we started talking about this stuff. And Mr. Carney came around not that much longer after those things. Until fairly recently, as we all know, Rhinebeck has been economically diverse and accessible to people of all ages and income levels. But we also all know that that is no longer the case. What makes Rhinebeck special are its mix of people, its thriving walkable village center with independent businesses, its vibrant cultural life, the hospital, good schools, and yes, its natural beauty. These are all interdependent, yet sometimes when we get into a regulatory review process, it causes us to focus on certain of those elements rather than considering how they actually all fit together and what's needed for our community to maintain a healthy balance. So as a community, it behooves us to zoom out to see how a project like this fits into the larger context and the future of our community. It's like the tale of the blind man and the elephant that we're all familiar with, where if all you can perceive is a small part of it, then you can't know what the whole is. So again, I am sure that the site plan review process will improve the project. I commend you for your time and effort and how seriously you take it. It's evident from listening to the comments so far. But please, in order to help our community achieve that healthy balance, please get it done as expeditiously as you can so we can all reap the benefits of the project. Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Karen Travelli, and I live at Wells Manor. I guess I have some basic questions, and mostly pertaining to Wells Manor. And my first question is, what can we expect during construction? What will the noise level be? What will the impact be on the residents that are living there? I mean, I hear blasting, trucks. This concerns me because the people there, many of them are not well, and they're seniors. So it's kind of a delicate community. And my second question is, will the sharing of the Wells Manor entrance during construction negatively impact the flow of traffic to and from Wells Manor? I haven't heard anything about that. I mean, it's not brought up. I mean, how will it actually impact us? Our comings and goings of, how will we be distracted? My next question is, when will Mr. Carney actually come to Wells Manor and speak to the residents? You promised to do that, we're waiting. We need to hear from them, because people, their imaginations run wild. And we just need some sensible conversation, what to expect, how to negotiate it, what will it mean for us for 2 years? I mean, 2 years of construction is a long time.
I believe you sent these questions in writing,
Yeah,
and I think Gretchen has them.
Yeah.
So they will all be provided to the applicant, and I would anticipate a response the next time we get together, and you can consider the request that's been made to actually have a meeting at Wells Manor or a conversation with the residents.
That's good. Oh, I appreciate that. I really do. Thank you.
Who's next? I can assure you that we're going to continue the public hearing this evening, so the fact that you don't have questions right now doesn't mean that you can't come to the next meeting with questions. Is there anybody else here tonight? Is there anything else then from planning board members? Oh, okay, Jim is going to share. Does anyone, John, anything at this point?
No.
I don't think we,
I get the feeling that people have a sense that somehow the planning board has been gumming the works up and slowing this project up, and I don't think that that's true.
you know, I would agree with you. I mean, we certainly can look at this and say this has been a long, as Steve said and others, it's been in conversation for a long time. This first came to the planning board in November, I think, as an application. It was then put on hold temporarily while the town laid down the local law. And this is the second meeting, is that correct, or is it the third? I'm losing track. Second meeting since then. So to Craig's point, this is really the third full meeting, and not even considering them full meetings, that the planning board has been receiving and processing this information. And it is truly the first time that we've had so many people come here wishing to make comment, and we have now fulsome comments from planning board members, and I think we've moved it along as expeditiously as we are doing. And we too are committed to continuing this process in the most effective way. I would say that planning board members will also be receiving written comments. You can leave this evening and submit written comments between now and the next meeting, and come prepared at the next meeting if you wish to speak. So we will not continue this unnecessarily, but we will continue it until the public has had every opportunity it needs to ask questions and to get them answered. And the planning board is committed to doing as thorough a review of the application as we would with any other application that comes before the planning board. And that is with the encouragement of the town board, who is asking the planning board to proceed as they normally would with due diligence. So I can assure you that we're all on board with that, and hearing nothing more, I would entertain a motion. I think at this point Jim wants to share some information.
Well, just, there was a comment about, where you can see the materials, and so just as a reminder, on the Town of Rhinebeck webpage, if you go to town government boards, and you go to the planning board page, up at the top there's a link to application for the planning board, and that will take you to all the current public hearing applications. Workforce housing is on here, and the last one we had it was actually from this past June. The July information we just got was just like, 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. But it has been kept up to date, so you can see all the iterations that we have on file from 2024 to 2025. Just a reminder that that is there.
I think there's a folder on the town boards, or maybe on the front page for the town of Rhinebeck. And if you click on that, it's everything from August.
That's the town board review process.
Yeah.
That's their process.
Yeah.
When we do our process, this is where we put the files. This one's been a little bit unique compared to others, but we can talk about whether or not we need to make some updates or changes. But that's where the files are stored.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I could entertain a motion to continue the public hearing until August 18th will be the next time. May I have that motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, the motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, public, for your comments. And if you wish to chit chat, and I know you might, I would just ask you to go outside so we can continue the business of this evening. Thank you so much.
Melody, will you want Christian at the next meeting?
I would, yes. I think it's important. I'll ask my other colleagues on the planning board. I found it very helpful to have Christian here, and with your encouragement, I would ask him to come back to future meetings. We'll stay in touch. And, We do, as a matter of convenience for ourselves, we encourage our engineering consultants to be in touch and work with the applicants, engineers. So if there's, you can work with Jim and I to see what, if there's ways of addressing certain things in the meantime or bringing forward additional information that would be helpful, we'll be in touch about that.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. The last public hearing, yes, for this evening is that of Darren Prinz and Kelly Swiss, Accurate Brook Road, site plan review for the construction of a single-family dwelling, a covered terrace in-ground pool with fence. Several things have happened regarding this application. Very recently, I believe last week, we received a request from the applicant notification that they didn't feel they had the information they needed and would not be present at this evening's meeting, and they were requesting that it be continued until the August 18th meeting. However, today we received, and I think it was sent to you, but I won't speak to you, and I think Jim got it at about 11 o'clock today, something like that. A letter of positive jurisdiction with the freshwater wetlands from the Department of Environmental Conservation. So I think Bach and Shipler was the last application we had that had a positive jurisdictional determination, and this is the second one. If you recall, Bach and Shipler, we waited several months, maybe 3 or 4 months, pending DEC actually getting out there and taking a look at it. My conclusion would be that I would not expect something that is of greater, I think, significance than Bach and Shipler. It would be turned around within 30 days by DEC. So I think we should be discussing at this point whether we're continuing this 1 month or whether we're continuing this to an undetermined date and time until we have more information back from DEC. Jim, is there anything you want to add, or John at this point?
I don't have anything to add.
No, so I mean, the letter's up on the screen. If you didn't get it earlier, I'm not sure. It did come today from the applicant's representative. You'll certainly get a copy of it. But it does require that the applicant, it noted that the parcel contains freshwater wetlands and or regulated adjacent areas that meet or exceed the 12.4 acre jurisdictional threshold. There are also previously mapped wetlands and or regulated adjacent areas on the parcel. And they're saying an Article 24 permit from DEC is required for any regulated activity. Prior to engaging activity, they have to coordinate with DEC, and that the essentially the boundaries of the jurisdictional wetlands and regulated areas are going to have to be determined, finalized, that type of thing. So this is only the second positive JD letter we've ever received, but there appears to be some work necessary to move forward based on that letter. So. Yeah, that's really all I have. Again, the JD process is relatively new for all of us, for everybody, since it just started in January. So I have a lot to go on, but we know Bach and Shipler took a couple months, and that was a very small application.
What was the address of that? Was that
Bach and Shipler? That was White
Schoolhouse Road.
That was
It was
the proposed addition. Not addition.
Guest house.
The standalone accessory
okay.
unit. Yeah, they made it move it 13 feet, and that took so long.
I think it was at least 3 months that we kept waiting, kept them on for discussion. We closed the public hearing, but we kept them on waiting, and finally DEC got out there and then did make them change the application. This is, I think, has more of an impact, a potential impact, than the Bach and Shipler, and I'm just at the point where I think an undetermined date and time seems like a reasonable. I mean, you can go 3 months out, we can do whatever we want, but I don't know that it makes sense to just go month to month. But I'm open to your comments and suggestions.
I don't know, we could do that, or like you say, to an undetermined date, or we could just say August 18th, we know it's not going to be before then, or we feel that it's not going to be before then, and then August 18th, we can continue them again.
How would the undetermined date go? As soon as they have their information, they let us know, they would immediately be on the next agenda?
They have to give like 2 weeks, right?
And they would just have to renotice the neighbors,
Oh,
which isn't necessarily bad.
Maybe that works best then, because if they get their paperwork early, they don't have to wait a whole month for the cycle. It could potentially be 2 weeks and 2 days out.
This is your call. It's your determination.
Undetermined date? Okay.
Undetermined date and time. Is there any other comments or questions about this procedural stuff?
I'm open to whatever everyone suggests. Do we ask the applicant if they have a preference?
Good, yeah, you can talk about it.
This is my project.
Yes.
From my understanding that, talking from the architects, that there should be a positive response and a faster turnaround from the conversations that they've had. I don't know the experience with this. It's our preference if we could be on the next monthly planning board, and if we don't get a response by then we can go to an undetermined date. That would be our preference. We did wait a significant amount of time for some of the Hudsonia reports, and we were kept being progressed to the next planning board meeting for those reports. It would be our preference to be on the next month, and if we don't have the information by then, we'll be undetermined date.
To Craig's point though, if you got it sooner and you were on the next available meeting, there could be an accelerated process too by being undetermined. So, anyway.
Well, they'd have to notice again.
They've already noticed, which is an additional step. You're suggesting that the architect has some information from DEC that implies this is a quick turnaround? Is that what I'm understanding?
No, the dialogue between them has been open, and it's not just like shut and like no response from them. So it would lead me to believe that it may be a quicker turnaround.
Well, you went through the DEC jurisdictional determination, which led to this. That takes typically 100 days, give or take, right? That's been pretty standard as we've been going through this. So, and as we indicated, this is new to us too. This is since January. We're working our way through how this unfolds. We can.
Would the board be open to going 60 days out?
Sure.
And then, I mean, we're not going to see it in 30 days. We're darn positive of that. But if we go 60 days out, that would save them having to renotice, potentially, right? But like we just realized that 60 days we probably also won't have the information.
I think that's a reasonable approach. We're basing this on our pretty solid experience that getting something back from DEC in 30 days is not often the case. So Sean is offering a sort of compromise here that we go to the September meeting, and we'll see see where we are at that point, and perhaps the architect will have additional conversations in the meantime and have some sense of where they are in the process of reviewing it. Does that work for you?
Yes, thank you.
Any other comments?
Also, yeah, just to be clear, it seems like you were using positive in the positive sense that the architect's conversation with DEC was productive and amenable, not that they were going to give you a positive declaration, like being positive.
I never meant anything like that. It's just the conversation back and forth.
Then
in the first 30 days, it was hard for them to respond. Now the responses are coming quicker. Now we have
Momentum.
momentum.
Okay. All right, so I'll take that as a motion.
So moved.
And I have a second.
60 days.
Which September date?
2nd September.
Pardon?
Which September date?
That's
Second
what I was,
September.
there's the 2nd, and then there's the 15th.
I want to go to the second meeting.
So the 17th, or 15th, yeah.
Not the second day, but the second day following our schedule. So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. That concludes the public hearings for this evening. That brings us to T-Court LLC and KPH2 LLC, 195 River Road and 189 River Road. Site plan, special use permit, and wetlands permit for train, fence, gates, and stone wall. Good evening. I believe we've discussed this. Is there any additional or new information that you have to present to us this evening?
Yes, good evening. Seth Stickle with Mark Kaminsky, PE LSPC, here this evening to represent T-Corp LLC and KPH Management LLC. Just wanted to report back to the board that on July 16th, the zoning board voted on and approved a resolution for the variances that were requested, and that was filed in the office on the 18th. So I have a copy of that, but I'm pretty sure that everyone has access to a copy of that as well.
John, there's no additional information we need on that, right?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Planning board members, any questions, comments, concerns?
This is for the height variance, yeah? For the bridge or multiple variances?
Yeah, the application for the variances for the ZBA were in reference to the Phase 3 loop, which has trestles that are above the 20-foot. So it's 29.3 feet, so it's a 9.3 foot variance. The Phase 4 loop has a signature bridge, which is 59.2 feet. So the variance for that was 36.2 feet, excuse me. And then the structures for their area and the number of them is by special permit. The planning board is allowed to vote on the number of structures on a larger site like this. And we asked for a variance for the square footage of the total of those structures. That's 3 variances. And then the other 2 were on this specific site, T-Court, the principal structure is actually all the way to the west on the river. So almost all of the other structures are within the front yard of that structure. So there are 2 variances for what is the covered platform and the conservatory for their location in front of the principal well. They're both like 800 feet off of River Road, but still because of T-Court being several thousand feet away, they didn't require a variance. So that was the 5 variances that were granted by the zoning ordinance.
Okay. And I can only think of 2 structures that would be taller than that 59 feet. It would be the Ferncliff Tower and the Ferncliff Nursing Home. So the 3 tallest structures in Rhinebeck, right on the Ferncliff property. So, unless I'm wrong about that.
Okay. Anything else? I believe Jim has prepared a draft approval resolution. Would you like to run through that? Or are you ready to move ahead with this application? Any reservations or concerns?
I mean, I just don't know if more time is going to resolve the reservations or concerns, in my opinion.
Well, and the variances have been granted.
I still feel that it's out of context and is out of keeping, and I intend to vote against when you take the poll, but that's my position.
Okay.
And as Denise points out, I don't think time is going to change.
Okay. Any other comments? Jim, would you like to go through the draft approval resolution?
Sure. Draft approval resolution for the board's consideration tonight, acting on the application by T-Court LLC and KPH2 LLC for site plan, special use permit, wetlands permit under Town Code Chapter 125 and Town Code Chapter 120 for construction of a miniature train, garden train, and constructing gates, walls, and fencing at 189, 195 River Road within the HB20. Reaffirming the action is type 2 under secret for which coordinated environmental quality review is not required. Based upon the submitted information, finding the proposed work is consistent with the objectives and regulations of Chapter 125. Asking the board with respect to the application for a wetlands permit to find the work and intended use is consistent with the general standards for wetlands permit, and granting that permit conditioned upon site plan approval. With respect to the special use permit, finding the proposed work and intended use is consistent with the general standards for a special use permit, and granting the requested special use permit conditioned upon site plan approval. And with respect to the application for site plan approval, finding the work and intended use is consistent with Town Code Chapter 125, and approving the application inclusive of the materials, the site plan by Mark R. Gominsky, PEL's PC dated March 31st, 2025, authorizing the planning board chair to stamp and sign the above cited site plan upon the applicant's satisfaction of the 3 conditions listed below. And under number 3, I had down special use permit. I will change that to wetlands permit. Just a typo, I apologize.
May I hear a motion?
I move we accept.
I have a motion, may I hear a second? I will poll the board. I will start with Rick.
No.
Edmund? Aye. Tom?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Sharon? Aye. Elise? Aye. And I am voting aye, but I would like to say that I understand Craig's position. The reason I am voting aye is because I believe, although in principle what he's talking about, I also believe the actions are reversible and will not bring harm to the property that cannot be corrected in the future. So that's the nuance of my vote, and I would like that recorded as well. So the motion carries. The project is approved. Good luck.
Thank you. We appreciate your consideration.
The next order under old business is that of the Wildflower School burn 7085 and 7091 Route 9 site plan and special use permit for a daycare nursery school, and I'll turn it over to Jim to update us based on some recent communications and continuing negotiations with the applicant and the DOT.
Right, that's essentially the essence of where we are. The last time the applicant was here before the board, we discussed the fact that we cannot approve the project without approval from DOT. DOT is not doing conditional approvals for the most part anymore, so they have to get full approval from the DOT for the project. I've been getting copied, and I provided them the Melody, but I figure everyone doesn't need the emails. The back and forth between DOT and the applicant, I asked them to court to just let me know what's going on. And right now, they are kind of down to the final details. They're talking about cost estimates and the amount of material that are needed to put in the driveway and other things like that that the DOT requires, making sure the signage is right, that all the planned elements are labeled properly and that kind of thing. And they have been coordinating back and forth with DOT since that last meeting that they were in front of us. So really the only thing to do tonight, I think, is to continue this public hearing. I don't really know, when these things will be resolved. It does seem to be getting down to the nitty gritty, dots the i's, cross the t's on this. But yeah, that's really all I have on this one right now.
Well, and more than once we thought we were down to the final, few things, and DOT is still finding more things that they feel they want to be satisfied. But I think we've all agreed throughout this process that the traffic concerns and the safety concerns related to the highway are of paramount importance in this application. And so I would ask for a motion to continue the public hearing to the August 18th meeting.
I was just going to ask, because obviously you guys have a little more knowledge, than the rest of us. There'd be no benefit for, obviously, I know they're trying to open up this school year, which is, we're up against it. There's no evidence at this point that they have any approval within the next couple of years, based upon the traction they have.
Hard to know. Like I said, they're down to the final details, but there are a couple of them they're working through.
Right.
It's just kind of back and forth between the two offices.
Yeah.
I really couldn't tell you where they are.
And they have to have it in by the 4th anyway.
Oh, right.
Then
Right.
they have the 2 weeks,
So, okay.
Well, and I mean, not that the point isn't well taken and well intended, but the physical work that has to take place to be able to open it. So, I don't want to say it's an artificial deadline, but there's no way they're going to open for the school year with the work just to get the road in to meet the specifications that DOT require. I don't think by September.
Okay.
So if it were a matter of we could fix it, I think we'd be inclined to look at it, but I don't think so. So
8/18.
if that's a motion, I'll take a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. The last agenda item this evening, discussion only, is that of Joel Hearn, 443 Mill Road, site plan review for the abandonment of a micro hydro that was previously approved. And Jim, I believe you have an update from Mark Long that you received today.
Yes.
I'll ask you to go through that.
Yep, so I took a quick look. I received this earlier today from Mark from CPL. He is the engineer working on behalf of the Town Planning Board engineering firm. It's coordinating with Joel and Joel's contractor to oversee this on behalf of the building departments, you know. So essentially what it comes down to, based on the letter I received earlier today, is that he said that work is performing well, the booms were set up, the material has been placed, some of the material has been placed, but essentially there's still remaining items of installing a silt fence, the toe of the slope, placing the planting soil per sheet 301, planting shrubs, and then sign off by the applicant's engineer. And then he provided a couple of pictures just to kind of show what's going on. I had not talked with Mark, so I just reviewed this quickly before the meeting today. So this just shows you what's going on, but it does sound like Mark is pretty comfortable with what's been happening and the work that's progressing.
Say is or is not?
Is
comfortable with the work that has been progressing. So these are some of the pictures he took and submitted. Again, I haven't talked to him about anything, but it seems like we're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, so,
That's what I have to offer the board tonight.
Okay.
yeah, Mark didn't stay at the end of the day Friday, but Bosport did put in the silt fence at the toe, and between the riprap and the regraded slope.
It's good to hear that great progress has been made. I think Mark's suggesting probably another couple days. Is that correct? Is that your understanding?
The silt fence is in, so all we have to do yet is put in the plantings, and Dutchess Soil and Water Conservation say we should do the planting in the fall, as well as the mixed sedge and tall grasses that we just ordered from Ernst should go in when it's cooler. But if the board requires us to do the plantings and the seeding before you can lift the stop order, so we can put in the stop, the court ordered fence between us and the hotels. We'll do that now, and with just the financial burden of watering the plants during the dry season.
Right,
It's
well,
up to you.
I think what we'll do is we'll talk to Mark about the next steps. He sent us the letter, and let me see if I understand. I've talked to a couple of people. So the next steps are, once the work has been completed based on the work plan that you agreed to with Mark Long and your consultant, there will be a final inspection made by your engineer and by Mark Long, and then Mark will certify to us that the work has been completed satisfactorily based on your agreement. At that point, it will go back to Brian Tam as the zoning administrator, who will then visit the site, inspect the work, and he then will make the determination about lifting the stop work order and the notice of violation. That has to be the next step, and then at that point, we will return to the planning board for our approval of the project itself. And following that, once you have that approval, then you will be free to come back with the future work that you want to do. Right?
Well, for the fence and the solar panels,
That's a different application.
I don't need to come to you guys.
Probably, that may be the case. I'm not speaking for Brian. You may speak for Brian, but Brian will make that determination.
All in all, he's saying you can't do any additional work on the property until the order's been lifted by Brian. Completely different projects, but those have to be lifted before additional work first.
So the board doesn't lift the stop work order, it's Brian.
Absolutely.
Brian does that. And when Brian has lifted the stop work order, after reviewing the work upon completion and the sign off by CPL, then he'll lift the stop work order and it comes back to us for approval of the removal of the microhydro.
For this matter.
Correct. Okay?
Thank you so much for
All right, so we're going to,
One question, the stone that you showed the picture of, is that brought in, or was that the stuff that was taken from the site?
As I said many times, that was all on,
Those big,
It's in the lab, right? It was from the
that's
site.
all from the site.
that's all from the site?
I think Mark detailed that in his letter.
So the only question that remains, and I'll reach out to Mark, is just to make sure he's comfortable with this idea of the plantings later in the season, which, you know, obviously we don't want to plant them and have them die. It doesn't make any sense. So we'll confirm with him on that, so he's aware of that when he's going through the sign-offs, and we'll deal with that.
I'm sorry, Jim, I didn't.
We're talking about the plantings. We'll circle back to Mark Long, about his feeling about the plantings, and we'll talk with John about whether that can be conditional or some other approach. But we're not going to give an answer to that tonight.
Okay. All right.
So we'll need a motion to continue.
Just real quick, Joel, thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay? So I know that this was a lot of back and forth, but it's nice to see where the work's at, and we appreciate it getting done. So I just want to.
I mean, this has been educational for me. I mean, you guys obviously didn't trust me, but I knew.
Yeah, I don't want to get into.
So I'm learning about.
I'm just saying thank you.
Yeah.
So we can just accept it on
Say
both
you're welcome
sides.
and let's move on.
And we can move on, but thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
2 weeks,
So the August 4th.
August 4th, motion to continue for 2 weeks. I have a motion, second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, I believe that we have concluded the business this evening unless there's anything else.
I have one thing.
Yes?
I would like, when we have a large turnout, I think it would be important to remind the public of our role. As to Greg's point, I think like this, you know, there's so much out there in public that we can't control in communication. And I don't think that the public actually understands our role. Everyone looks at the planning board as like a roadblock. And so if there's any way, I think, especially when we have a large turnout, I think we should find a way to reiterate our role is to follow the law and make a project better than it is potentially currently proposed as on behalf of the public, right? And that's our role. And so I just want to bring that up because I think if we do that in the future, I think, you know, the site, how we're seen might be different by the people in the public.
Good point.
Well said.
Also, just to that point, a logistical thing that I think could be really helpful in advance when we're about to open it up, say, here is the pointer. It's right here for everyone to use. Please remove the mic from the stand so everyone can hear you. Like, just have a little protocol. Because they're always like blocking it and no one knows how to adjust the mic. Just like, here's the pointer, everyone can use it. Here's the mic, take it off. Will just help. Maybe.
I think I'll be giving individual assignments.
I'm happy to do it.
Everybody
You don't have
can-
anything else on your plate?
Everybody can have a role.
I could be the microphone guy.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'll work on specific assignments before the next
That's a
meeting.
good. We
I'd
could all-
like
we're all
to-
maybe
I'd like
keep
to-
it on your plate.
Make a suggestion to close the meeting.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion.
All right.
And all those in favor? Thank you all. I thought it was a very productive and educational experience this evening with workforce housing. I appreciated the public's comments. I appreciated the collegiality that I thought was going on, and I appreciate your support. So thanks very much. And